No matter what, that person responded to a phone call, they responded to a postcard, they responded to something. They want your services.
Absolutely, because I mean they're there, and it's like, okay, I got to bring the A game, and if they don't buy, then I got to reevaluate. Well, what did I miss?
Yeah.
What happened? And then, like you said, some will, some won't. I get it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if they're not buying, it's conditional.
While you're in discovery, it's like going into a military barracks and getting your guns to go out to battle. Now, you can spend some time in there and get a bunch of ammunition, or you can just get one bullet and then run out to the battlefield. And so during discovery, the whole point is to collect these bullets. Okay, they got an old car. Okay, it fell off the roof. Their daughter's sick. Their grandkids live in the... And not to immediately start firing the benefits that associate with those, but just to load up that gun as much as I can until I go outside to the battlefield, which is later in the sales presentation.
It's like going to the doctor's office. You know, you go into the doctor's office, you can cough. You know, a cough doesn't necessarily mean you have the flu. You can have bronchitis. A good doctor is going to sit there and ask you questions to understand the symptoms that you have before he diagnoses what you have and write the script. That's you as a sales rep. You know, that's your discovery mode. You have to diagnose. You have to get in there and understand the symptoms before you can describe your product to these people, which is different solution. I mean, the solution to fix the problem.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Leads to Deals podcast, where we talk about everything from leads to deals and everything we talk about leads to deals. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by a legendary closer who's been turning maybe into money for almost 2 decades. He's cut his teeth in the unforgiving world of timeshare sales, where he quickly earned a reputation as the guy who could close anyone with a heartbeat and a credit card and do it ethically. Since then, he sold everything from high-ticket coaching programs to real estate deals at scales. These days, he runs a mercenary for hire model called Closer Needed that everybody in the REI space needs to know about, helping turn shaky leads into signed contracts. And I think most importantly, they don't call him Mr. Reduction for nothing. We got to understand exactly how he came to that name, but he saved hundreds of near dead deals by renegotiating with sellers and bridging gaps that otherwise most wholesalers never would have been able to do. The results speak louder than any intro I could give. So welcome to the podcast, Marcus Wilkerson.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, man. So, we have a personal journey, and so we won't bore too many people with that. I've been aware of you and your closing skills for decades now. But I want to talk about that because you're an OG. You're a young OG. You know, you've been in sales for 20 years. I'm going to hit you right out of the gates with something I contemplate. What is something you learned on the back half of your sales career that you genuinely wish you would have known on your first half of your sales career?
Actually, man, it really goes into more of a personal thing as far as finances, because in the sales game, you make a lot of money. So just being able to manage the money that I've made throughout time,
Yes.
So that's what I've learned on the back end of the sales game. And then also everything is consistent. You know, the foundation never changes. It's just how we say it, same shit, different toilet. So just plug in the foundation into new products, and that's it.
And so for people who have never been in a sales environment like Marcus came from, he came from the timeshare world. And so it's still today, a lot of people don't really understand what that means, but that's one of those places where it's truly boiler room-esque, that everybody's living on the seat of their pants. And so when you're in that world, you become part of that world as well, too. And so I think that's what you're alluding to. It's because it's so high commission, high crazy. Nobody's really trying to set up a foundation to last a while. They're constantly in there needing to replenish whatever they spent from a Mercedes or buying the cars or partying or whatever. So did it take just a long time to break out, or did you have to leave that industry for some of that next level thinking to come into place?
Yeah, man, on my way out of the industry, I'm like, well, you know what, man, I'm getting up there in age, so I need to start really making the money work for itself. I mean, as a salesman, you know, when you bang out a $20,000 or $30,000 commission in 1 month, it's like, okay, I can do it again. That's the mindset. And so I can do it again. I've done it plenty of times, but there's also been times where I'm like, shit, I shouldn't have spent that money. I should have done something different.
As a W-2 employee in the United States, do you recall what's your biggest commission check you ever got?
Biggest commission check, man, was when I was working for, at the time, Sunterra Resorts, which is now Diamond, and of course they've changed hands, man.
Uh-huh.
30 grand, $30,000
Damn.
bonus check, and I sat in my bank for over half an hour or more trying to get $10,000 out of my own account. They wouldn't let me, but I walked out with the money, of course.
Yeah.
But you're talking about, man. Ever since then, I was like, okay, I can't do anything else other than sales. It's either sales or my next business. And anybody that get into sales, that is the next step to me.
Yes.
I couldn't go back to an hourly paying job or a salary, man. I would die.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this 30 racks, because this is, I know you've been in the game for a while. So inflation, this ain't like 30K today. This is 30K a while ago. It's still big money no matter what day you're in. I'm not trying to dilute it, but it's even bigger back then. What was that, in-house sales or frontline sales? And can you explain to anybody who's like, what are you guys talking about? What's the difference?
Yeah, well, it was in-house, but frontline sales is the sales line that's going to meet the client that they don't own timeshare. It's their first time getting into it. So that's that front line, more so like browbeat them type thing.
Yeah.
In-house is a backdoor sale, man, and it took me a minute to kind of get that transition, but when I figured it out, it was lights out. It's more of a psychology type thing, but it's smooth. It's more so like negotiate, sort of like it makes me think of Chris Voss when I say that. And one of the things that I learned is never create a problem that you can't solve. So armed with that information and understanding that, I'm like, okay, well, let me create some problems that's going to lead you to a sale. And at the end of the day, if they don't have my product, that's the immediate problem right there. So I had to show them that what they had was good. This is a little better, and funnel them down to, hey, asking them a question. Hey, looking at the two, comparing which one makes the most sense. 95% of the time, they say what I was sharing them made the most sense. So it was just money work after that.
This is why I love talking to sales dudes, because your whole philosophy and mantra for a lot of it is problem solution. And you use the word create the problem. And I think really, truly, it's making them aware of the problems as well as what you're saying. It's like helping them see it because it's there. They just may not be aware that X amount, they might have problems with this in the future, or this price over here might raise in the future. And that's what I like about what you do in the real estate space and that's experience, because I think customers should always feel free that there's two options. They can go with our service, or they can continue down this path of this other painful situation, and it's our job to shine light on it. That yes, the real estate market might crash. Yes, as the interest rates are getting up, there's less demand. The supply is tipping in the other direction. And so walk me through that. It's like you're educating them, but I think you also help them feel like they came to the conclusion on their own. So kind of walk me through like this pathway that you take people on in a sales cycle.
Yeah, in short, it's like, if you're telling them, you're basically selling, but if they say it is the gospel, so
Come on.
it's more so like, now is asking the questions once when you set them up. So now, can you see why most people armed with this information are doing this? And they're like, yes. Okay, well, had you known this when you did this, what would you've done differently? So that's the foundation in the box. When I'm asking those type of questions and they're telling, well, I would have done this and this and this. Okay, well, if you had that opportunity now, what would you do? Well, obviously I would do this, this, and this. Okay. So now I'm making sure that they are they seem to be in control. Yes. I'm just leading them the entire time. And go ahead.
I love when I listen to your pitches and been around you. Dude, I've been amazed. I mean, like, just a way you get people to talk, and it's like they're talking way more than you, and it's just like you're dropping a little bomb and then they're exploding down this conversation path. So I want you to talk about that. And then also you said something like, hey, I'm not telling, I'm selling. I heard this phrase back when I was in sales, like telling ain't selling. So
That's
for
right.
everybody out here who's in the REI space and they're stuck on, okay, and how many beds and baths and square footage do you have? Okay, let me run some numbers. That's telling. Okay, and we buy all cash and we can close on your time frame. That's telling. Walk us through the difference between telling and selling and getting the customers to sell themselves by questions.
Well, for example, like first and foremost, like when you said something about how I get the people to open up, in the process is a warm up. You
Mhm.
always have to do a warm up. I'm a relationship seller. And so out the gate, people like me. So now we're talking, we're small talking, but I'm listening to what they're saying. And instead of me, like you said, getting on the phone with these guys and telling them, well, look, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. I'm like, look, guys, help me understand what brought you to this point in the first place so I can see or figure out how I can help you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. My philosophy is this, I don't like sales reps, even though I am one, because sales reps will just try to browbeat things into you. It's just a matter of me giving you your information so you can make a well-informed decision, because if you had all your information, you know what to do what's in your best interest. Now, if you have questions, please ask. The only stupid question is one that's not asked. You may not like what I'm going to tell you, but at least I'm going to tell it to you like it is. And now they start telling me what they like and what they need. And then I'm like, well, okay, have you talked to people prior to me? Well, yeah. Okay, well, what happened with them? Now they start telling me what happened with them. Guess what they're doing? Telling me all the problems that I need to avoid. And
Amen.
it's a conversation. I didn't like when they told me this, or they lowballed me. Okay, well, I need to understand why you feel like you've been lowballed. So my question would be, well, did they explain to you why they came up with that number or how they came up with that number? Well, no. Okay, well, that's an issue. Okay, my goal is to tell you how we came up with these numbers so that way you can understand. And even if we don't do business today, at least the next person that come down through the pipeline that numbers are close to mine or somewhat like mine, you'll understand how they got there. It's all about understanding. So even though you may not like what I'm telling you, at the end of the day, you got to execute, because you told me, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you want to sell your home because of this. And the reason why we're on the phone is because of this. I need to help you get there. It may not be as pretty as you envision it, but I'm going to get you there. How does that sound? Okay, now we're talking.
I think about a guy like you and somebody who's new, who are in the REI space, and they're like,
Mhm.
damn, what did he just say? Let me play that back. How did that just sound so fluid to a guy like you? And I would answer, hey, that's many years of repetition.
Yeah.
There's many fundamentals throughout that. But how do you give somebody advice? If somebody's like, what did you just say? Like, where's the basic where they can just, because I think a lot of people in the REI space are afraid to have that conversation. They like don't know what to do with their hands, and they're afraid that if they ask a question, they might get a negative answer. And so what they end up doing is just pitching, and never getting any type of feedback until the no at the end. So what's some advice you can give to somebody new in the REI space who's like, how did you do that, man?
Well, my first and foremost is you got to write your pitch out and understand the different points. The intro is important. Why is that important? I need to understand you. I need to know you. You need to know me, because I'm just meeting you. The intro, the warm up. The warm up is I buy from people I like. I don't buy from people I don't like. You need to like me. And uh, uh, this this how can I say it? In this world, we say your first impression can be your last impression, or it's your
Mm-hmm.
first. So not for a sales rep, it's your second impression, because they already have an impression of you. So you have to overcome that. So now I get to talking to them and letting them know I'm a human too. So and if you're scared to hit objections straight up, then you have to set yourself up and make it so it's comfortable for you. I get uncomfortable from time to time, and if I tell you I don't, I'm lying to you. Everybody
Yeah.
does, you know. And so to help me, I set myself up. For example, I may say to you, look, Scott, man, we can do this one of two ways. And what I've learned is, I can candy coat this for you, or I can give it to you straight, no chaser. How would you like it? When you say, guess what most people say?
Everyone's gonna say role playing. Everyone's gonna say, give it to me straight. I don't want the fluff, the bullshit that every other salesperson out there gives me. Give it to me straight.
Now, what I've just done is ask for permission from the seller to go hard on that ass. Like,
Yes.
all right, hey, look, man, what the hell are you thinking? What do you mean? You know, Jeff, you're $50,000 above Zestimate. That doesn't make sense, man. I can talk to you like that now because
Yes.
I've asked for it and earned the right to do so. What happens is people get upset in the process and they haven't even earned the right to talk to the person like that. So guess what that person is going to do? Hang up, which is why you have to know your stages in your sales process: intro, warm up, and then you got to give a brief lay of the land. Let the people know what to expect. Now you're on the same page. After you do that, it's game on. So once when you really write your pitch out, you got your rebuttals, a certain amount of rebuttals that you know you're going to be faced with. I suggest that you learn your pitch. You're going to sound like a robot in the beginning. I did. But the more you learn your pitch, the more you understand the psychology behind the pitch. Now you can start like wrapping your personality around it. And when you wrap your personality around that, then sky's the limit, because now you're natural. You fit, it's more of a natural flow, and now it's a conversation versus an interrogation.
Everybody needs to play all this back 15 times. There's so many gems in there. I'm going to tell you how I genuinely felt psychologically, even in that role play, when you told me, hey, listen, I can give it to you sugar coated, or I can give it to you raw, no chaser. What would you prefer? Even in that role play, the amount of trust that I felt in that next sentence, once I told you, give it to me raw. And you said, okay, boom. And now we're going to go. The amount of trust that the customer gains, because you're saying like, hey, I can bullshit you like every other salesperson, or I can just be upfront and tell you how it is. And we used to have a philosophy that I think has to come through, almost transcends, and you can almost even say it, but some will, some won't, so what? So there's also a part of that too. It's like, hey, I'm going to show you exactly why people like you typically move forward, why I believe why this would be a good fit. But if not, life goes on. Like, I can't force you to make the choice that I'm going to lay out in front of you if it makes sense. And also to let people know that, like, if it doesn't make sense, I'm not going to ask for your business. And so what you talked about there in the industry, they call like future pacing, which is true. Like, you give them a lay of the land of what's going to happen on today's phone call, or what's going to happen while I'm walking through the house with you today. We used to call it something called like breaking the pact, where we would tell them, Can you explain what breaking the pact is, and then kind of how that morphs into this laying of the land?
Breaking the pact, man. You took me back to time shit, boy. That's breaking the pact is like owning the objection. You know,
In the front end, right? Tell them this is in the front end.
In the front end, and it's more so like, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I know you guys didn't wake up this morning saying you were gonna come over here buy a timeshare. I know that, you know, and it probably went like this. You know, Mr. Jones, you looked over at your wife and said, you know, I don't care what these guys say. If they throw the kitchen sink at us, we're not buying. And Mrs. Jones, you probably look back at Mr. Jones and said, you know what, baby, you're right. And you pound up and you join forces, and it's you two guys against us. Right. Right. And they say, well, yeah, we said something like that. That's called breaking the pact. You know the client's game plan. You know how they pretty much think. So you have to study your client. You have to study the objections that you typically get across the board. And you take that and you incorporate that in your pitch so that way it can be addressed. So breaking the pact, that's all it is. You just, hey, look, there's going to be some tension here. I know you guys got a game plan. We have a game plan, but let's kind of address it. Address the pink elephant in the room.
Yeah, and it goes back to the trust factor, because now you getting trust from them. Like, hey, listen, I know you said this thing. All I'm going to ask is at the end of the presentation, you keep an open mind. And if it's something that genuinely will benefit you, we move forward. If not, you don't. But just don't let that silly conversation that you had yesterday before you had any of the facts, or you got to meet us to see our property, or this happens for people who are doing face-to-face sales. For everybody here who's going REI in home, if you don't think Barbara and John Didn't say, oh, he's going to be here in 20 minutes. Now, remember, don't show him this and don't tell him this. And let's get our realtor friend to come out. When you can own that, as soon as you walk in and you've earned the right to own it, you've really set it up for the end. And that's what I like the most about the future pacing or the lay of the land or even the blood pack. Because at the end, if they say that thing to you that they promised not to do, you can call them out. Now, remember, Barbara, when I first came in, we talked about this, that XYZ realtor, etc. It's like now you own it and you get to confront it a little bit better at the end. And truly, most times when you execute on the front end, it doesn't appear. But at least if it does appear, you've now had this conversation to reflect back to kind of negate some of the power of the customer with this pre-built no. Because the way I look at it, I listened to Muhammad Ali this morning. He was talking about in an interview. They said, hey, how many sit-ups do you do? He says, I only start counting the sit-ups when they hurt. That's the only one they count. And that's how I think about no's. Like there's so many reflexive no's that you got to get out of a customer. Let them get out of it throughout the entire process. It's not until like the 6th or 7th no, typically, until you even have a shot at getting a yes.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. And it's also, man, like even when you break the pack or you go through the process, it's very important to do what we call close the doors, or often referred to as the hallway of sales. If you get on the call, you don't do the intro right in order to transition to the next step, then all of that stuff is going to rear its head on the back end of the sales process. So, but if you go through those chambers and you close each door, then it sets yourself up to have a higher percentage of closing and getting these deals across the finish line. So, for example, like a discovery, oftentimes the death to a salesman is they start selling during discovery because they hear something that they like and they want to harp on it, or they go into problem solving mode while they're talking. No, you're going to turn the person off. So what helped me understand is in the in-house business, I had some guys around me. It's like, man, you got to learn how to turn your head. You turn your head backwards when you're conversing, is pressure on, pressure off. So your head is backwards in discovery mode. You turn your head back, you lay back, ask questions that you need, and it's just like loading your gun up the entire time. And then they may say something that's like, oh yeah, I got you right there. Like, okay, I'm gonna hold on to that, everything. And then when it's time to sell, you start bringing these things up, on the back end. So that's the process. But when you are done with discovery, close the door, move on.
Great advice, Marcus. There's so many people out there. What he just talked about is sales discipline, where somebody can give you a hot thing that you feel like you want to jump on. Oh, and guess what? We'll actually take all the stuff off of the property for you. You don't have to worry about that old car, because they mentioned an old car that they were struggling to get off the property. But no, it's like, okay, they talked about that. They talked about their husband, how he fell off of the ladder fixing something on the roof. Okay, and the best part is we'll buy it as is. No, you're in discovery mode. And so I remember back when I was first learning sales, that same thing about loading a revolver. And the way that his name was Ray Rickard, the way he was explaining it to me, while you're in discovery, he said, while you're in discovery, it's like going into a military barracks and getting your guns to go out to battle. Now, you can spend some time in there and get a bunch of ammunition, or you can just get one bullet and then run out to the battlefield. And so during discovery, the whole point is to collect these bullets. Okay, they got an old car. Okay, it fell off the roof. Their daughter's sick. Their grandkids live in it. And not to immediately start firing the benefits that associate with those, but just to load up that gun as much as I can until I go outside to the battlefield, which is later in the sales presentation. But it takes discipline not to fire that bullet as soon as it appears.
Absolutely, man. And I had one of my managers in the timeshare game kind of did a different analogy on that. It's like going to the doctor's office. You go into the doctor's office, you can cough. A cough doesn't necessarily mean you have the flu. You could have bronchitis. A good doctor is going to sit there and ask you questions to understand the symptoms that you have before he diagnoses what you have and write the script. That's you as a sales rep. That's your discovery mode. You have to diagnose. You have to get in there and understand the symptoms before you can prescribe your product to these people, which is differently the solution to fix the problem.
I love it, bro. That's a great analogy. I going through some research for today. One of your quotes you had said, you can't freestyle your way to consistent high performance, like master the basics. Talk to us about freestyling, because I think a lot of people, when they hear you, they would think that you're more or less freestyling. So how do you
Yeah.
balance that?
Well, I mean, it goes back to, knowing your script, knowing the flow of things, because once when you have that foundation in you, yes, it's going to sound like I'm freestyling, but I know how, I know which step I'm in, and each conversation is going to sound different, but the process is the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's where it comes down to, man. I have a script that I follow all of the time. I get on the phone. I make sure that I acknowledge the people that sent me the lead. Like, hey, how did James treat you? I see you spoke with him. He's the one that set the appointment. How did he treat you? Oh, he treated me well. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. So I don't have to put James in the headlock and kick him out the door, do I? They do the exact same thing you just did.
Yeah.
So now I broke the ice. Now we're chuckling. Okay, good. All right, well, great. Let's see what we can do to continue on that path. That type thing. So that's a part of my script. The next part of the script is, okay, guys, out of curiosity, am I like the fifth or the 30th person that you've probably talked to about your house? Yeah, that's sort of like a breaking the plaque, adjusting,
Yes.
owning the objection. Okay, well, we'll stop you from moving forward with these people. Oh, they
Yes.
lowballed me. They said this, they did this. Okay. All right, understood. Now, most people would just jump right in and just try to problem solve right there. No, I want to understand why you didn't move forward with these people. Next step is, well, let me tell you how we do business. It may sound similar to what these guys are telling you, but I don't want to leave any stone unturned or assume that they are doing my job. They can't do it like me anyway. So let me
Yes.
explain to you how we do business. We do this. We do buy properties as is, but not sight unseen, which simply means that we have to inspect the place. Now, should we reach an agreement, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we can pretty much close in 30 business days or less. Would that be too fast for you? Well, no, that will work. Okay, great. Now, guys, I do work with a team of underwriters. Their job is to uh, run comps, comparative market analysis on properties that have sold in like and similar conditions as yours, but they're not going to go on the outside of 3 months due to the conditions of the market. Are
Oof.
you aware of what's happening in the market right now,
Woo.
Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Now I'm testing them.
Yes.
I need to know where they are. So now they're saying, okay, well, yes, I do, or no, I don't. Well, they say yes. Well, okay, well, tell me what you know is going on in the market. And I let them talk. And whatever they say, I'm like, yeah, yeah. Now I'm putting you on a pedestal. And you and I both know when you're on a pedestal, don't nobody want to get down from that. So I'm making you seem smart. Yeah, you know what? If everybody that I spoke to was armed with that information that you just shared with me, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I would have hair on my head. I don't. They do exactly what you just did. They laugh. All right. It's a reason behind me saying these things,
Yes.
So I was taught that you never, when you're talking, make sure it always have a reason behind it, that you're just not talking bullshit,
Amen.
you know. And if it sounds like I'm talking bullshit to you, I'm having fun with you. I'm warming up to you the entire time, but I'm still planting seeds.
Amen.
I'm still planting seeds. So now I take you through this commercial, and you're telling me, okay, well, yeah. I'm like, well, and if they miss or don't share what I need them to know, then I have to add that. It's like, you know what, you're right. Also, this is the challenge that people are running into. Are you aware that the housing market prices are now normalizing throughout the nation? They will either say yes or no. If they
Yep.
say yes, then I'm like, well, what does that mean to you? If they say no, I'm going to explain it.
I love what you said about the experts and put them on the pedestal, because if you've done that and they got 80%, but you just needed to hit them with that last 10 to 20%, which is like, so are you aware that house prices are starting to normalize and there's being like an influx of inventory, almost like pre-pandemic levels? Once you've put them on a pedestal like that, and when you've complimented them because they're savvy and they're smart, they're getting ahead of the curve, 100% of the times they're gonna be like, yeah, I knew that. I knew that. And so they're owning this fact that again helps them move forward with the services. When you don't put them on a pedestal, they don't care if they come down or if they look different in your eyes. But if somebody's an expert, they never don't want to feel like they're the expert on something. So I love that
Exactly.
strategy.
And people, well, you'd be surprised. People will actually buy because they're on a pedestal. They don't want to look stupid,
Amen.
and they don't. I mean, that's human nature. And so understanding that as well, you use that not to take advantage of people, but you got to take them through the sales process. You know, they need people like us in order to make this world go around. If you're not selling, the world stops.
So one thing that there was my greatest sales mentor of all time. His name was Stanley Britt, and he really put into my head that like no matter what, that person responded to a phone call, they responded to a postcard, they responded to something. They want your services. Like I don't care what they say. They drove 45 minutes away. They're taking a phone call, whatever it is. And like once I really bought into that, my sales career really changed. It was like, yeah, you know what? Absolutely. They do want, or they wouldn't, no one would take their time, waste their time, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that experience has helped so much in the REI world. What are kind of your thoughts on that? Like literally, if somebody's going to take out the time to talk to me, then they should buy. I should put the pressure on them to buy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I mean, they're there, and it's like, okay, I got to bring the A game, and if they don't buy, now I got to reevaluate. Well, what did I miss? What
Yeah.
happened? And then, like you said, some will, some won't. I get it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if they're not buying, it's conditional.
For everybody out here who has a manager who buys their leads for them, that mentality that we're talking about right here will make you on a different level in front of your CEO or whoever's buying the leads. Because when you take that thought process, you almost by default treat every lead like you spent money on it yourself. In other words, you 100% believe that I should stick through to this lead throughout the entire process because that's the only way I can treat everybody the same. I just put them through the whole process. I treat them all the same. I don't prejudge them. And unless you adopt that mentality, you end up taking shortcuts. And I think that's where a lot of people, particularly in the REI space, because we've seen so much, like we come from other industries, we came into this, parachuted into this industry. And if you're anything like me, when I first got in, I was like, these guys don't have sales skills. They don't have sales experience.
No.
They have buying skills, but not sales skills. Like they can buy from the MLS, they can comp a deal, but they struggle to keep somebody on the phone for X amount of time to find out that their daughter has cancer and this is the solution that they need, or their life is going to go down a completely other path. So I just wonder for you, like when you come in, do you kind of have those same observations? Like there's the sales skills vary a lot in this space.
It does, man. And the problem is they don't really have any type of professional or sales training. These guys, they jump on podcasts, and I give them kudos for trying to figure it out. But a form of professional training for those who've had professional sales training excel well in this business because it's plug and go. You get a lot of these guys, they burn out because they get in, they spend the money and they spend money for coaching, and then some of them burn out. It didn't work. Well, why didn't it work? Because your ass can't sell. That's why it didn't work. And you're prejudging. The last thing that's the worst thing a sales rep can do is prejudge, because it puts you in a funky mindset that when you prejudge this guy, then guess what happens to the next guy that really needs your services? That shit carries over into the next lead.
Yeah.
And then you fuck that sale up. No, never prejudge. And as far as when it comes to a lead or prospect, anybody that shows interest, it's a lead.
How do you prevent yourself from getting negative on a call, Marcus, in the first few minutes when they're just like, hey, man, dude, maybe, I don't know, like, but I think I'm just going to sell to somebody in my family, or I don't really want to talk about it anymore, or whatever it may be. Like just in the front, they're just giving you extreme resistance. How do you deal with it?
Understanding that what it is, armed with the understanding that they're just giving me the sales resistance, or we call it, what is it, the RDR,
reactionary defense response. Yeah.
Knowing that's what's happening should actually put you in a better state of mind but you have to learn how to work through that to get through it. So it's like, man, yeah, I get it. You may want to look at talking to somebody in the family. Have you done that already? because hey, look, I may not be the solution. They may be the solution, but you owe it to yourself to have all your information so you can make a well-informed decision, right?
Amen.
So
Guys,
now
what you
I've
just
earned the right to do that.
what he
But
just did there in the softest way was a great takeaway. Like somebody's pulling back from you, pull back from them. And that psychology of like, hey man, I'm just here to help. We can't help you. We can't help you. You probably should go down this other path. At least consider it, right? So tell me, and I can give you the facts, etc. That takeaway is so strong and so powerful. And I would say by far that's the hardest thing that I have to do when I'm training fronters to become closers, is to turn that hat, as the analogy used, because in fronting you really are browbeat, bam, 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 bam. You're really shoving it down for at scale, right? But in closing, you have to be able to step back and be like, hey, listen, we're analyzing a bunch of different properties. I'm just following up. If it works out, it works, whatever your takeaway process may be. But I find that that's lacking a lot. Do you think it's more fear that prevents closers from using the takeaways, lack of strategy? What do you think?
yeah, fear, man. That was my biggest issue. Because if you, when you take it away, they let you have it sometimes. You're
It
like,
does
fuck it,
happen.
you can take it. Yeah, I want it. So and again, if they do let you have it, okay, you can still recover. It's like, man,
Yeah.
okay, I get it. So you stick to your process. People abandon the process, man.
Amen.
If you stick to the fucking process, everything else will fall into place. Now, how you finesse the process along the way, that's when your skill sets, your personality, and everything else helps increase your closing abilities.
I think we're so blessed for our sales careers, and everybody out there has worked, whether it be timeshare or solar or whatever, like more
Yeah.
aggressive sales styles, because like I've seen so many beautiful takeaways that I understand. Like I've watched people where we did a takeaway and they left. They're like walking out the door to their car. And it's like when you see people who have literally in the REI example, you would be on the street, you would have been ceremoniously kicked out of their house, you make it to your car, it is over. But you turn around and you just come right back in with that one last thing and that pressure off and then back on. It's so
Yes,
beautiful. And sometimes you have to go through that. And it's just like, it's part of the Hollywood game.
it is.
I
It
love it,
is.
dude. Tell us
It,
about the moniker Mr. Reduction, what that means to you, what it means to other people who maybe follow you.
brother, I actually earned that name messing with you guys. um,
Yep.
you know, um,
He used to be
you know,
heavy. He got he got one of those gastric bypass things. That's why we call him Mr. Professor
reductions.
Clump.
Yeah, you should have seen me a few years ago.
No, that's a joke, guys. All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
So tell us how we leveraged you and our affiliates were leveraging you for reductions.
In short, man, you that phone call that you placed to me to, to say, hey, man, come hang out with me for a little while, and with Lama Su,
Yeah.
actually opened the door for me to get into this space, and which would led to Mr. Reductions. And then, of course, came back to the States. It's like, okay, man, what can we do to leverage your skills?
Yes.
That's when I linked up with you guys, put me on board with Quick Cash Offer, and it's like, okay, look, these deals are either they we're going to lose them anyway. See if you can get a reduction in there. I'm like, okay, let's go. So armed with that opportunity and getting these reductions for you guys, I'm like, well, shit, I'm good at this. I like this. It was like, okay, and then so I just decided to take on his name, Mr. Reduction, like,
Yes.
and that was the birth of it all. But man, when I run the numbers and look back on it, 70 to 75% success rate in getting reductions,
Yes.
and it has to be a part of your sales process. If you're not and if you're not going back in to get a reduction on every assigned contract, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And I've
Yeah.
talked to some guys out there that say, hey, look, man, I think that's wrong. We do it right the first time. What? I mean,
Yeah.
well, doing it right is adding reductions to your process is doing it right. So yeah, you want to get them at the lowest before they go into contract. But if you ain't going back in to get that reduction after the sign, shame on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've almost been kicked out of a mastermind when I first got into it, because I was like, yeah, this is exactly what we do if it's under our 15K average spread. So for everybody who's maybe not in the REI world, just very quickly, we're locking up deals at certain contract values. If we don't keep them for ourselves, we wholesale them back out. Once we know what our margin may be, even if it's to a positive, let's say we locked it up for 75, we've assigned it for 85. We're going back in for a reduction on the seller because we've gotten new information. We've now gotten photos. We've done a walkthrough. We've gotten buyer feedback. It just simply doesn't hit what our original criteria will be. And so we're going back into the seller to command a reduction, if you will. A lot of people are scared to do it, and then they mask that scared under a moral compass. And so you'll hear these people say, hey, we just don't do it. I think it may be a little bit different if you are face-to-face. I get it. I can appreciate that. But at least for anybody who's locking up contracts over the phone, I think it's literally has to be part of the process, because there's no way the seller's disclosing everything the way that you need. And there's no way that you were able to extract everything you need to be able to hit it on the dollar perfect. So I guess walk us through, what are some of the tips, the strategies for everybody out there to get a reduction on their wholesale contract?
Ooh, wait. And you actually hit the surface of it, man. After they go through, you got the inspection and everything else. Now we call it the sauce. You know, I love when I'm gonna call him out, Anthony Casada, man. I was like, man, what's the sauce? He'll send me over the things that were discovered that were not covered or talked about during the initial conversation. So that's the sauce. Sometimes some deals had sauce, some had little to no sauce, but you still had to go in. And the bottom line is going in with confidence. You still have to have a script there. And what I was taught is emotions are good, whether if they're mean or mad or happy. If a person gets emotional and the other person is not, then the person that's not emotional is in control. You give up control when you get emotional. So when you go into these people, it's like, hey guys, look, you have to have a script. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I am the junior underwriter in all cases. I always have somebody above me. We call that a ghost TO, somebody I have to answer to. I don't have to always be the big cheese.
So let me lay this out for everybody's listening. So a closer, let's say, gets a deal in a REI office, right? They got a deal, the spreads don't work, or it's not where they want to be. You are coming in as a second voice, which is a senior to the closer, but a junior to somebody else, just so we understand. They're not coming in. So even you as high authority figure, you're still putting somebody above you. Explain why to get a reduction it's important to have somebody above you.
Because I'm going to be these people's friend. I'm going to be the one that's going to come to the table with a solution, and I am in the position to tell you the things that other people are scared to tell you. I'm just going to keep it transparent with you. That's the position that I hold when I'm in that position. I always have to have somebody above me. So now that psychologically allows the client to vent. Well, you go back and you tell them XYZ. They're not fussing at me. They're fussing at the guy above me. So now I can be like, okay, man, well, I can do this and I can do that. I can try this. Now I'm trial closing. I'm like, well, I can do it, but let's look at worst case scenario. Let's look at plan B. If I can't get them to do this, then what? You know, we're this close, guys. What are we going to do? You're going to start back over? If you start back over, remember you said you needed to sell this place to move on because you already bought another place. Are you in a position to do that? Well, no. Okay, I get it. This information I'm sharing with you is not, if I were in your shoes, I wouldn't like me either. I wouldn't. But we're here now. So, you know, other than me actually getting this thing across the finish line for this price right here, this is where we need to be based upon these things. Had we discussed these things in the beginning, our price would have been there in the first place. Believe you me, I hate to be on this phone telling you we need to be here when we started here, but this is the reality of it all. You can start over if you want to, but everybody else is going to come right back down to what we're talking about right now. Time is money. What do you want to do? I can go talk to them, or we can just cancel the contract.
There it is. I think that part of this strategy, after watching you and doing something myself, the willingness to walk away from the deal is so important for the reduction. The willingness to speak with the authority that we are willing to walk away because it doesn't make sense. You can't really go in for a successful reduction on a, hey, this would be nicer for us to get a do better. No, it's like, this is make or break. The only way that we're able to maintain is this, and being able to let them vent to the point of they're willing to walk away from the deal, but still having that line to keep them in the game. I think it's so important because I've watched people go into it weak and they get destroyed. The customer, I told you this and I told you that. And they just literally, they're like, oh my God, I'm never going to do that again. That steak restaurant was bad. I'll never eat steak again. And then they never go in for another reduction again. So that full takeaway is where it's at. You got a crazy story you can share about one of the takeaways, one of the reductions that you've done?
Brother, yeah, and in quick cash offers office, I literally went live. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this in front of everybody. Plug the TV up. We had to mute the speakers on, and I called this lady. And one of the hardest reductions, and it scared the shit out of me. The lady got mad. And I'm like, okay, emotions are good. But then she started going dark on me. She started talking about suicide and things of this nature. And I'm like, oh shit. But I had to remain calm. And she started talking about suicide. Her husband got on the phone, laid me out. They cursed me out and talked shit to me for like 25 to 30 minutes. And I had to remind myself, I just need to let them vent. I just need to let them vent. And so I had to get grounded.
Yeah.
And when I grounded myself, they just got it all out. And then I'm like, okay, guys, I heard everything that you had to say. Now I'm gonna tell you like my grandfather would told me at this point in time, because you have to be able to adapt and adjust. Okay. Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment. If you let your emotions cloud your judgment and everything you told me, you have increased the percentage of that happening. Versus if I can get this money and put it in your pocket, it may not be the ideal amount of money you were looking for, but if I can get this house off your hands, what would that do for you? It took them back to the reason, their motivation. Well, it would do this, and would do this, and would do this. Well, guys, look, it's not as much to do these things, but can you still get it done with this? Yes. Well, what are we talking about, guys? Let me see if I can go back and fight to get us at this price. And if I can get them to get there, what you say? Then they say, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go back there and fight to come back with the number, say, would you take this? No, I need the green light from you first. Let's work it in reverse order. So now I've earned the right to go back and fight for these people, and they're already in. I'm just on hold.
There's literally layers to everything. I wasn't going to talk about this. You just did it. At the end, he said, if I could, would you? It's kind of like a sales concept. He said, hey, listen, I'm not going to go back there and then come back in the hope. Like, I need to know right now, before I go back there, that if I'm able to accomplish this, that we're good to go. Real quick, just drop one more gem on people that are in this space. Walk us through the if I could, would kind of sales trial close strategy.
Yeah, like, okay, so in the reduction, just picking up from the reduction, let's do it that way. If my guys needed to be at 100,000, the best thing to do is to drop down to a 90,000. It's almost like an anchor when before you get the price. Like, look, guys, we're coming in at 90,000. Well, we can't do 90,000. Okay, well, what can we do? If they come back, we can do 95. Whew, man, I don't know, but I'll try it. Let me ask you this. If I could get them at 95, can we get the deal done? Yes. Okay, great. So let's do it this way. All right. I'm going to put together an addendum. I'm going to send it out to you for the 95. I'm going to go back here and fight. So what I need you to do is endorse this addendum first. If I can get their signature, then it was meant to be. If I can't get their signature, then what do we do? Do we just walk at the 90 or just rip everything up? Now they're telling me, hey, look, let's see what you can do to get the 95, Marcus. Okay.
That's so many years of experience right there coming through. Our managers back in the day would just tell us, just bring me a credit card and a driver's license.
That's it.
Like Like if you negotiate whatever, but just don't come back to me and say, oh, the customer said that they could do 90. No, like just give me a credit card and a driver's license. If you can get that out of their wallet, I'll make something happen. Same thing here. It's like you getting them to sign it first is such a level of commitment nobody else is doing. I really, really love that. Thank you for dropping that gem on us. Let's talk about Closer Need It real quick and wrap it up, man. I think this is probably the most requested thing in 5 years of having an agency that I got that I was never able to fulfill for people. And it just speaks to the demand of a mercenary group or a mercenary man for hire. And I think about like BlackRock or those guys that are doing like clandestine operations all over the world. And that's what I think about as Closer Need It. So explain to the masses what Closer Need It is and what kind of the solution you're providing for the problem.
In short, man, Closer Need It is there for the person that's beginning, or even the expert out there that just want more deals to their pipeline, add more deals to the pipeline, that's saying, okay, well, let me focus on more so dispo, let me focus on these things. We do the heavy lifting. We nurture your leads, we keep your leads hot, and we pitch by appointments only. As a sales rep, I'm only pitching by appointment. I do not dial through people's CRMs because a sales rep need to focus on closing. So in short, we actually, it's my way of teaching, especially for those whose CRMs are set up to record my pitches. I'm not that guy that's going to write out a sales presentation and teach it. I'm the guy that can teach you by showing you. So you get two things in one. One, I'm bringing deals to the table, and you're learning how to close like me. So that's what Closer Need It actually brings to the table, putting money in your pocket. So instead of paying for X amount of dollars and cents to hope to get something in return, no, I only get paid when I close your deals. That's
Yeah, I love that. Let me tell you from a business and a guy who owns a wholesaling office, what I appreciate the most about a service like yours is effectively he's coming with a team of lead managers, right? Or you're having people that are working from your side to set up the appointments, or does the affiliates that you work with set up their appointments for you?
My team sets the appointment. So you know, my affiliates, they are generating the leads, qualified leads sitting in their CRM. My team will get in your CRM, set up the appointments for me and my team to pitch.
So a world-class closer and a team of leads managers cleaning up the leads, sending them to you. You're going on there, you're getting the people interested, sending out contracts, working with the affiliates back office or your customers back office to get the right comping done, making sure that that's dialed in.
Correct.
And they effectively get to hire a 20-year plus high ticket closer, and all the closings are recorded for posterity. So that way, as they expand their team in the future, let's just say you help them stabilize, you help them clean up whatever excess lead flow that they have, or for whatever reason they wanted to now venture on their own. They have this like beautiful resource of real training material for life. So that part right there is almost like its own thing. Like that's such a bonus value add. The real deal is you're helping people who are struggling with closing get deals in their pipeline. And this is really big for investors too. And I say this as a tangent to my investors that are listening. Your core competency is flipping and rehabbing and managing GCs and dealing with the banks. A lot of times they don't have the capacity to start going direct to seller. It's a whole separate skill set. I'm sure, Marcus, you're infinitely better at closing people than you are at managing GCs to do bathrooms.
Absolutely.
Just two different worlds. So they get to hire you. They get to cut out wholesalers. They can still go direct to seller through a guy like you, get deals under contract, and they can focus on what's best for them.
That's exactly right, man. And you know, I tell my affiliates, as long as you are generating leads, I am going to keep you focusing on dispo. If you can handle that, then we got a good thing going, because I'm going to bring the deals to the table.
I can't wait for more of my affiliates to see this, because it's the 1-2 punch. It's like my company generates leads, your company knocks out contracts, and then they can handle the disposition on the back end on that side. So I love it. How do they find out about Closer Need It? How do they like sign up for this service or learn more?
Man, you can go straight to my website, www.closerneeded.com. You can go and fill out the form so that way you can set an appointment with me. You can call me direct at 844 ABC them. Stands for Always Be Closing Them. That's 844-222-8436.
ABC them.
All day. That's the phone call. I mean, that's the phone number, guys. So, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to assist you in any way that I possibly can.
I love that. I think if I could summarize anything about what you do, not only professionally, but business, personally, but I think you have an innate ability to create just win-win situations. And for people who are in closer needed, I think that's exactly what it is. It's like, hey, you've already solved part of the issue, which is you got leads and you can dispo them or you can take them down. But this win-win, that bridge, that gap right there, it's very, very, very needed. And I look forward to whoever's watching this, seeing this, going to that website or calling that ABC them and signing up for it, man. I think we need to do more of these. We could have spent probably a podcast each on each sales strategy that we just lightly touched on. I encourage everybody to go back there, watch this over, watch it slow, put it in 0.5, 0.75, understand some of the tactics and strategies and verbiage that he used, because we have 2 decades of real deal high ticket sales experience that we try to condense into 30 minutes or so. So I appreciate you coming out, Marcus, and chatting with us today.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And it was a pleasure being on the show, man.
All right, let's do it.
Yes, sir.